Hello, and welcome. It is time to let the day and all of its concerns simply fade away. Find your most comfortable position and gently close your eyes. Let's begin with a single, slow breath. Breathe in deeply, and as you breathe out, feel the tension begin to leave your body. There is nothing else you need to do tonight, nothing to focus on, and nothing to remember. The story I am about to tell is just a quiet murmur in the background, a calm and steady presence. Tonight, we will travel back to the cold winter of 1692 in the small, isolated community of Salem Village, to hear the story of the terrifying ordeal of an accused witch. So just relax and allow the sound of my voice to accompany you as you drift towards a deep and peaceful sleep. Our story begins in the year 1692, in the heart of a cold, bleak New England winter. The world outside is a study in gray and white. The skeletal branches of the trees are heavy with snow, and the ground is frozen solid. The wind howls across the barren fields, a lonely, mournful sound that seems to seep through the very walls of the simple, dark timber houses of Salem Village. This is a small, anxious community, a lonely outpost of piety on the edge of a vast, unknown wilderness. Life here is hard, a constant struggle against the harshness of the land and the ever-present fear of the unknown. The people are Puritans, a devout and severe community who believe that their lives are a constant battle between God and the devil, and for them, the devil is not an abstract concept. He is a real, tangible presence in the world, a cunning and relentless adversary who walks unseen among them, constantly searching for weaknesses, for souls to corrupt and enlist in his war against God. The forest that surrounds their village is to them the devil's last bastion, a dark and savage place, home to native tribes they view with suspicion and fear, and to wolves whose cries in the night sound like the laments of damned souls. But the greatest danger is not in the forest. It is within their own hearts, within their own community. They believe that the devil's most effective soldiers are not demons or beasts, but their own neighbors, witches, men and women, who, in a moment of weakness, greed, or despair, have signed the devil's black book, trading their immortal souls for some measure of earthly power. In this small, insular world, there are no secrets. Everyone knows everyone else's business. Their land disputes, their financial struggles, their personal animosities. The village is a web of interconnected families, and this web is frayed with tension. There are long-standing grudges between neighbors over property lines. There is resentment between the poorer farmers of the village and the wealthier merchants of the nearby Salem town. There is a contentious dispute over the village's own minister, the Reverend Samuel Paris, a man seen by many as rigid and grasping. This is a community simmering with unspoken resentments, a tinderbox of suspicion and mistrust, waiting for a spark. That spark is struck in the most unlikely of places, the kitchen of the Reverend Paris's own home. Over the long, dark winter months, a small group of young women and girls have been gathering there. Among them are the Reverend's 9-year-old daughter, Betty, and his 11-year-old niece, Abigail Williams. They are joined by other, slightly older girls from the village, young women trapped in the rigid and unforgiving role of a Puritan female, with a future that promises little more than hard work, prayer, and submission. In the warmth of the kitchen, they listen, enthralled to the stories of Titaba, the Reverend Paris's slave. She was brought from Barbados, and she speaks of a world far different from their own, a world of strange folklore, of magic and divination. To the girls starved for any form of stimulation or entertainment, her tales are intoxicating. They begin to dabble in fortune-telling, a forbidden but thrilling game. They drop an egg white into a glass of water, trying to divine the profession of their future husbands, a common folk magic of the time. But one of the girls, it is later said, saw something else in the glass, the shape of a coffin. It is shortly after this that the strangeness begins. Young Betty Paris becomes withdrawn and listless. She tries to hide under the furniture, complains of a fever, and barks like a dog. Soon, Abigail Williams begins to exhibit similar and even more dramatic behaviors. She contorts her body into impossible positions, screams as if she is being pinched or bitten by an invisible force, and falls into violent, trance-like fits. The Reverend Paris is bewildered and terrified. He tries to cure them with prayer, but their afflictions only worsen. The local physician, William Griggs, is summoned. He examines the girls, but can find no physical cause for their symptoms. He is a man of science, but he is also a man of his time. When medicine fails, there is only one other explanation he can offer. The girls, he declares, are under an evil hand. The diagnosis is a spark thrown into the tinderbox of Salem village. The girls are bewitched. The devil has come to Salem. The question is no longer if, but through whom. The pressure on the afflicted girls to name their tormentors is immense. The adults around them, their parents, the minister, the doctor lean over them as they writhe and scream, their questions urgent and leading. Who is it that afflicts you? The girls, now the center of the community's terrified attention, are trapped. Perhaps they are truly suffering from some psychological malady, or perhaps a game that started out of boredom has spun tragically out of control. Whatever the reason, they are now expected to provide a name. And so they do. They name 3 people, 3 women from the lowest rungs of the village's social ladder, 3 people who are defenseless. The first is Tituba, the slave. It is an obvious choice. She is an outsider, a person of a different race and culture, and the one who filled their heads with stories of magic. The second is Sarah Good, a beggar. She is a destitute, homeless woman who wanders from house to house, often muttering to herself when she is turned away. Her reputation is that of an unpleasant, antisocial person, an easy target for suspicion. The third is Sarah Osborne. She is an elderly, bedridden woman who is embroiled in a legal dispute with her own children over an inheritance. She has not attended church in over a year, a serious social failing in this devout community, and has earned the disapproval of her neighbors. These are the first whispers, the whispers of witchcraft. The names are spoken, and they spread through the village like a contagion. People nod their heads. It makes sense. These are not respected members of the community. They are outsiders, outcasts, people who fit the profile of what a witch was thought to be. The fear in the village now has a face, or rather 3 faces. For you, however, life continues as it always has. You hear the rumors, of course. It is impossible not to. You hear them at the meeting house on Sunday and the quiet conversations after the sermon. You hear them when you go to the mill or when you trade for supplies. You feel the change in the atmosphere, the new, sharp edge of fear and suspicion that has entered every interaction. Feel a pang of pity for the accused, perhaps, but you keep it to yourself. To defend a suspected witch is to draw suspicion upon oneself. The safest course of action is to remain quiet, to keep your head down, and to pray that this dark storm passes quickly. You are a respected member of the community. You own your land. You attend church regularly. Your family has lived here for years. You have had disputes with your neighbors. Of course, who hasn't? But nothing serious. You have no reason to believe that this madness could ever touch you. You are safe. This is your first and most critical mistake. You fail to understand that the logic of a witch hunt is not logical at all. It does not follow the rules of evidence or reason. It is a contagion of paranoia, and it feeds on itself. The accusations will not stop with the three outcasts. That is not how fear works. To prove its own righteousness, the hunt must always find new witches. It must grow, and it must climb the social ladder. One evening, you are in your home, sitting by the fire with your family. The day's work is done. Quiet domestic peace has settled in the room. There's a loud, authoritative knock at the door. You open it to find the local constable standing on your doorstep, his face grim in the fading light. He is holding a piece of paper in his hand. It is a warrant. And as he reads it aloud, you hear your own name. You have been accused of witchcraft. One of the afflicted girls has named you as her tormentor. The storm has not passed you by, it's just broken down your door. The world seems to tilt and shrink, the familiar, fire-lit comfort of your home becoming a distant, distorted scene. The constable's voice, reading the warrant. Is a dull drone in your ears? The words themselves so monstrously absurd that your mind refuses to fully grasp them. Witchcraft. A pact with the devil, tormenting a child you barely know. The accusations are a whirlwind of madness, and you are somehow at their center. You try to speak, to protest. The words come out as a strangled whisper. There is a mistake, you say. Looking from the constable's impassive face to your spouse, whose own face is a mask of pale, frozen shock. I am a good Christian. I have done no harm to anyone. The constable does not argue. He does not engage with your denial. He has heard it before. I am ordered to take you into custody for examination, he says, his voice flat and final. You must come with me. Your family rushes forward, their own voices joining yours in a chorus of confused protest. But there is nothing to be done. To resist the constable is to resist the authority of the magistrates, the authority of the colony itself. It is unthinkable. There is a frantic, heartbreaking scramble for a cloak to shield you from the winter cold, a desperate embrace, a whispered promise to speak to the minister, to find someone who can put an end to this terrible error. And then you are led out of your own home into the biting cold of the night. The door closes behind you, and the warm, yellow light of your home is extinguished, leaving you in the cold, blue light of the moon. The journey is not long, but it is the most agonizing walk of your life. You are not yet in chains, but you are a prisoner nonetheless, walking beside the constable. Your every step a public declaration of your new, monstrous identity. News travels impossibly fast in a place like Salem Village. As you walk the frozen path towards the center of the village, you see lights appearing in the windows of your neighbors' houses. His face is illuminated by candlelight pressed against the glass. These are people you have known your whole life. People you have prayed with, worked alongside, shared meals with. Now they stare at you with a new expression, a chilling mixture of fear, morbid curiosity, and a dawning, terrible certainty. They do not see their neighbor anymore, see a witch plucked from their very midst. The whispers that you once heard about others are now following you, silent and venomous, from every darkened doorway. You are not taken to a formal jail. There isn't one in Salem Village. Instead, you are escorted to Ingersoll's Tavern, a large public house near the meeting house that has become the grim headquarters for this unfolding drama. The constable leads you into a small, cold back room. A fire smolders in the hearth, offering little warmth. Two other people are already there, sitting on a simple wooden bench, their faces etched with the same bewildered terror that you feel. You recognize them. A farmer from the edge of the village, an elderly woman known for her sharp tongue. Like you, they are respected, church-going folk. They are not outcasts. The contagion is spreading. No one speaks. There is nothing to say. You are all trapped in the same nightmare, each of you frantically searching your own mind for a reason, cause for this sudden and total destruction of your life. You sit on the hard bench, the cold seeping into your bones, and you begin the desperate, maddening work of retracing your own life. Looking for the misstep that led you here. Why you? Who accused you? Is it the argument you had with Thomas Putnam last spring over a stray pig? The Putnams are a powerful family in the village, and they are at the very center of the accusations. Was this their revenge? Or was it the family of the afflicted girl herself? He had once admonished her for her lack of piety, a simple, corrective word from an elder to a child. Had that moment of ordinary discipline curdled into a supernatural grievance in the girl's mind? You think of the times your own butter failed to churn, or a cow fell sick. In your frustration, had you muttered a curse under your breath, a simple angry phrase, "Devil take it harmless on its own"? But what if a neighbor had overheard? In this new paranoid world, such a phrase could be damning. You think of your knowledge of herbal remedies, the poultices and teas you learned from your mother to treat a fever or a cough. It is common knowledge, the practical medicine of farm folk. But now, in the shadow of the gallows, this simple knowledge seems sinister. Was it a healing touch or a witch's craft? This is the terrible genius of a witch hunt. It takes the ordinary, unavoidable frictions of life in a close community and reframes them through a lens of supernatural evil. Every disagreement, every bit of bad luck, every sharp word, every strange coincidence can be reinterpreted as evidence. Your entire life is retroactively criminalized. There is no defense, because the crimes you are accused of are invisible, spectral, occurring in a world that only your accuser can see. The hours pass. You do not sleep. Every creak of the floorboards, every shout from the tavern's main room sends a jolt of fear through you. Sometime before dawn, the constable brings another person in, a man named John Proctor, a tavern owner from the edge of town. He is not quiet or bewildered. He is a large man, and he is full of a righteous, booming rage. He openly scoffs at the accusations, calling the afflicted girls frauds and liars. He is the first person you have heard speak with such open, defiant skepticism. As he stands there, raging against the injustice, a cold certainty settles in your heart. He is doomed. In this world of fear, doubt is as great a sin as witchcraft itself. Finally, as the weak morning sun rises, the constable returns for you. The magistrates are ready, he says. It is time for your examination. You are led out of the tavern and across the snow-covered yard to the village meeting house. The entire community seems to be there, a great dark crowd of Puritans, their faces pale and grim in the winter light. They part to let you through, their eyes fixed on you, their silence a heavy, crushing weight. The meeting house, usually a place of quiet prayer and reflection, has been transformed. It is packed with people, standing on benches to get a better view. The air is thick and close, smelling of wet wool and human sweat. At the front of the room, on a raised platform, sit the two magistrates, John Hathorne and Jonathan Corwin. They are not judges, not yet. They are here to examine you, to find the evidence that will be used against you in a later trial. Below them, on a bench near the front, sit the afflicted girls, huddled together, waiting. They are the center of it all. They are your accusers, your witnesses, your judges, and your executioners, all in one. And as you are led to the center of the room to stand before them, you see them turn their eyes upon you, and a low theatrical moan rises from the group. The ordeal is about to begin. You are made to stand in the center of the room, isolated in a small, empty space, with the entire village pressing in around you. The air is heavy and suffocating. Before you, the magistrates sit behind a simple wooden table, their faces stern and righteous, their Bibles placed prominently before them. To your side, the bench of afflicted girls watches you, their expressions a strange mixture of childish fear and a new, unnerving sense of power. Magistrate John Hathorne, a man known for his harsh and inquisitorial style, leans forward. His voice is not that of a neutral investigator seeking truth. It is the voice of a prosecutor, a man who has already decided upon your guilt and is merely here to extract a confession. "What say you?" he begins, his voice cutting through the silence of the room. "You are brought before us on suspicion of witchcraft. What answer do you give?" You find your voice, though it is thin and trembling. "I am innocent," you say, your words sounding small and weak in the cavernous space. "I am a good Christian, as all here know. I have never had dealings with the devil." As the words of your denial leave your mouth, a low moan comes from the bench of the afflicted. One of the girls, Abigail Williams, cries out, her body suddenly going rigid. She sends her spirit. "Her spirit is upon me now," she screams, her eyes rolling back in her head. Immediately, the other girls follow suit. One shrieks that she is being pinched. Another contorts her body, her back arching unnaturally, as if she's being bent by an invisible force. The room erupts in a low murmur of horror. The crowd is not watching you. They're watching the girls. Their faces a mixture of terror and rapt fascination. They are witnessing the devil's work made manifest. Hathorne turns his cold eyes back to you. "Look there," he commands, gesturing to the writhing girls. "They say you are the one who torments them. How do you explain this?" "I cannot explain it," you plead, your voice rising in desperation. "I see nothing. I am doing nothing. I am innocent." You make the mistake of looking directly at the girls, an instinctive attempt to appeal to their reason, to their conscience. As your gaze falls upon them, their fits intensify to a fever pitch. They shield their faces with their hands, screaming that your eyes are like firebrands, that you are striking them down with a glance. You see Hathorne thunders, pointing a finger at you. When you but look upon them, they are struck down. It's your doing. Confess. Confess your witchcraft. You are trapped in a nightmare of inverted logic. Your every action, your every word, is twisted into proof of your guilt. You look away from the girls, unable to bear the sight of their performance. And Hathorne accuses you of being unable to face your victims. You clench your hands in anguish, and one of the girls immediately screams that your specter is squeezing her throat, and she begins to gasp and choke for air. You bite your lip in a desperate attempt to stay calm, and another girl cries out, showing the magistrates a red mark on her arm, claiming your spirit has just bitten her. The examination continues in this vein for what feels like an eternity. It is not an interrogation. It is a piece of grim, interactive theater in which you are the unwilling villain. The magistrates ask you to recite the Lord's Prayer. In your terrified state, your mind a fog of panic, you stumble over a word. A collective gasp rises from the crowd. A witch, they believe, cannot recite the Lord's Prayer without error, for their tongue cannot abide the holy words. Your simple human mistake is taken as diabolical proof. At one point, in a desperate attempt to prove your innocence, you raise your hands in a gesture of supplication to the magistrates. "I am as innocent as the child unborn," you cry. At that exact moment, the afflicted girls, as if on cue, all go silent and still, their bodies going limp. A hush falls over the room. Hawthorne looks at you, a grim, triumphant light in his eyes. "What do you make of this?" he asks. "When you raised your hands, their torment ceased. You have power over them, do you not? You've just shown us all your control. The trap is complete. Your gesture of innocence has been twisted into the most damning evidence yet." The crowd murmurs its agreement. They have seen it with their own eyes. When you are passive, the girls are tormented. When you act, their torment changes. You are the puppet master, and they are your unwilling puppets. The reality of your situation crashes down upon you with the force of a physical blow. There is no escape. There is no room for truth in this room. No space for reason. It is a closed system of belief, a feedback loop of hysteria, and you are caught within it. These people, your neighbors, have already condemned you. They see the devil in your eyes, they hear witchcraft in your denials, and they feel a righteous certainty in their hearts. Finally, having extracted all the evidence he needs, Magistrate Hawthorne brings the examination to a close. "You have been accused by these poor, afflicted children," he proclaims to the room, "and the evidence of your own actions here today confirms their testimony. Will be bound over for trial." He gives a sharp nod to the constable. Your brief, desperate hope for a mistake to be rectified is gone, replaced by the cold, hard reality of your fate. The constable approaches you this time with a length of rough rope. He binds your hands tightly behind your back, the coarse fibers biting into your skin. The binding is a profound and symbolic act. It is the final physical confirmation of your new status. You are no longer just an accused member of the community. You are now a prisoner, a dangerous thing to be constrained. As you are led out of the meeting house, the crowd shrinks away from you, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and loathing. The whispers have followed the warrant, and the warrant has led to this public condemnation. The first stage of your ordeal is over. You are now officially a witch in the eyes of Salem, and you are being led away to await your trial in a cold, dark jail. The heavy door of the meeting house closes behind you, shutting out the hostile faces of your neighbors and the last vestiges of your old life. You are now officially a prisoner, bound and disgraced. But your journey for the day is not yet over. Salem Village, being a small rural parish, has no proper jail. Those deemed too dangerous to be held in a tavern's back room must be transported to the official colonial jail in Salem town. A bustling port several miles away, you are placed in the back of a slow-moving cart, along with 2 other prisoners from the day's examinations. Your hands are still bound, and now, for the journey, the constable adds the cold, heavy weight of iron shackles around your ankles. The metal is freezing cold against your skin, and the chains clank with every jolt of the cart, a constant metallic reminder of your new status. The journey is a new form of torment. It is a slow, public parade of humiliation. The cart trundles along the frozen road, passing farms and homesteads. People stop their work to stare as you pass. Children who a week ago might have offered you a polite greeting now point, their faces a mixture of fear and excitement. You are a spectacle, a monster being carted away for the public good. You pull your cloak tightly around you, bowing your head in an attempt to hide your face, but there is no hiding. As you draw closer to Salem town, the crowds grow larger. This is a busier, more worldly place than your small village, but the fever of the witch hunt has spread here as well. When your cart rumbles onto the main street, you are met with a gauntlet of jeering and insults. People shout curses at you, calling you a servant of the devil, a tormentor of children. Some even throw handfuls of dirt or small stones at the cart. The constable makes no move to stop them. This public scorn is considered a part of your punishment. Finally, the cart creaks to a halt before a grim, two-story wooden building, reinforced with iron and sporting a heavy, studded door. This is the Salem jail. It is not a place of rehabilitation. It is a human warehouse, designed for nothing more than to contain the unwanted and the condemned. The jailer, a large, grim-faced man named William Downton, greets the constable with a grunt. He unlocks the heavy door, and you are shoved inside, out of the daylight and into a world of shadows and stench. The air that hits you is a physical blow. It is a thick, foul miasma of unwashed bodies, stale sweat, human waste, and the damp, earthy smell of rot. It is a smell so overpowering that you gag, your stomach churning in protest. You are led down a short, dark corridor, and the jailer unbolts another heavy door. "In," he says, shoving you forward into the gloom. The door slams shut behind you, the sound of the bolt sliding home, echoing with a terrible finality. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust to the darkness. The only light comes from a single, small, barred window, set high in the stone wall. Too high to see anything but a sliver of gray sky. The room is a small, stone-walled cell, perhaps 15 feet square. The floor is made of rough, damp earth, covered with a thin, reeking layer of straw, and you are not alone. The cell is already crowded with a dozen other people, all of them accused witches, all of them in various states of misery and despair. They are men and women, old and young, crammed together in this small, filthy space. You recognize Sarah Good, the beggar, huddled in a corner, her hair matted, muttering to herself. You see others from the village, people who, like you, were respected members of the community only days ago. Now they are just shadows in the gloom, their faces gaunt with fear and disbelief. There are no beds, no furniture, only the cold, damp floor. You find a small space for yourself against a wall and sink down into the filthy straw, pulling your knees to your chest. The cold from the stone seeps through your clothes, a deep, inescapable chill that seems to find its way into your very bones. As the hours pass, you learn the cruel economy of the jail. Your imprisonment itself is not free. The jailer operates the prison as a private enterprise. You are expected to pay for your own food and water. You are even expected to pay for the use of the shackles that bind you. If you have no family on the outside who is willing or able to bring you provisions and pay your fees, you are at the mercy of the jailer's charity, which is non-existent. You will be given the barest minimum to survive, if that. You see this in action, as some prisoners have small loaves of bread or cheese brought by loved ones, which they eat with a desperate, guarded hunger, while others, like Sarah Good, have nothing and can only watch with hollow eyes. There is no sanitation. Single, overflowing wooden bucket in the corner of the room serves as the latrine for all 12 of you. The stench is a constant, suffocating presence. The straw on the floor is alive with vermin. You can feel the rustle and scuttling of rats and insects in the darkness, hear them in the walls. Lice are an inevitability, passed from prisoner to prisoner in the impossibly close quarters. As night falls, the sliver of light from the window vanishes, plunging the cell into an absolute, terrifying blackness. The cell, which was a place of quiet despair during the day, now comes alive with the sounds of human suffering. In the darkness, you can hear the quiet, desperate weeping of a woman in the corner. You can hear a man reciting prayers over and over again, his voice a low, desperate drone. You hear the snores and sleep talk of those few who can find the temporary escape of unconsciousness. And underneath it all, the constant, unnerving scratching and scuttling of the rats. You lie on the cold, filthy ground, your body aching, your stomach empty, your mind a maelstrom of terror. The events of the past 24 hours play over and over again in your head. The constable at the door, the hostile faces of your neighbors, the absurdity of the examination, the hateful shouts in the street. You have been ripped from your life and thrown into this pit, condemned by unseen evidence and the theatrical fits of children. There is no one to appeal to, no one who will listen to your pleas of innocence. The full weight of your ordeal, the true meaning of your incarceration, begins to settle upon you. This is not a holding place. It is a tomb for the living. The days in the jail begin to merge into one long, gray, and unchanging twilight of misery. Time loses its meaning, marked only by the small patch of sky in the high window changing from pale gray to a deeper black. The routine is a monotonous cycle of suffering. In the morning, the jailer's wife might bring a small ration, of course, gritty bread and a bucket of foul water, leaving it on the floor for the prisoners to share among themselves. The rest of the day is a void, hours upon hours, to be filled with nothing but your own terrified thoughts. You learn the faces and stories of your fellow prisoners. You are a community of the damned, stripped of your names and your histories, reduced to a single defining label, which there is the quiet dignity of Rebecca Nurse, a pious, elderly matriarch whose accusation has sent a shockwave of disbelief through the community, a testament to the fact that no one is safe. There is the defiant rage of John Proctor, who continues to curse the magistrates and the afflicted girls, his anger a stark contrast to the weeping despair of others. And there are those who are beginning to break, their minds fracturing under the weight of it all. The initial examination in the meeting house was not the end of your interrogation. It was only the beginning. Periodically, the heavy cell door will unbolt, and a small group of men will enter. Magistrates, ministers from neighboring towns, and other prominent citizens. They have come to continue the examination, to pry and to press, their single-minded goal being the extraction of a confession. They move among the prisoners, their fine, dark clothes a stark contrast to the rags of the accused. They do not offer comfort or counsel. They offer damnation. They speak to you of the fires of hell, of the certainty of your eternal torment if you die with this unconfessed sin upon your soul. They tell you that God may forgive a confessed witch, but that your stubborn denial is a sign of your utter devotion to Satan. Your sin is not in the witchcraft itself. One of the ministers tells you, his voice a low, reasonable drone, but in your refusal to confess it and glorify God by revealing the devil's works. It is a twisting of faith so profound it makes your head spin. They are using the very core of your belief system as a weapon against you, framing a lie as an act of piety. Your continued assertion of the truth is presented as the ultimate sin. You see some prisoners falter under this theological assault, their will to resist eroded by the fear of not just the gallows, but of an eternity of fire. Then comes a new and more personal violation. One morning, the jailer enters with 2 women of the village and the constable. They have been appointed by the magistrates to perform a physical examination. They're here to search your body for the witch's teat, or the devil's mark. You and the other female prisoners are forced to one side of the cell. One by one, you are stripped of your ragged clothes, your body exposed to the cold air and the clinical searching eyes of the examiners. It is a moment of profound and total humiliation, a stripping away of the last vestiges of your dignity in front of your fellow prisoners and the impassive constable. The women run their hands over every inch of your body. They are searching for any abnormality, any imperfection that can be reinterpreted as a mark of the diabolical. A simple mole, a small birthmark, a skin tag, a scar from some long-forgotten childhood accidental are suspect. They poke and prod at your flesh, their touch not gentle, but rough and accusatory. They find a small, dark mole on your back. It has been there your entire life. The women examine it closely, whispering to each other. One of them tests its sensitivity by pricking it with a long pin. According to the lore, a devil's mark is numb, a spot of dead flesh where he has touched his servant. You cry out in pain as the pin breaks your skin. Your cry is not taken as proof of your innocence, but as a cunning trick, the devil mimicking the response of real flesh. The mole is noted down in their report. It is evidence. A normal human part of your body has just been entered into the official record as a sign of your allegiance with evil. The physical toll of imprisonment is just as relentless as the psychological one. The cold, the damp, and the malnutrition weaken your body's defenses. Sickness, which is always lurking in a place like this, begins to spread through the cell with terrifying speed. It starts with a cough in one prisoner, a fever in another. Soon it is a full-blown outbreak of jail fever, likely typhus or influenza. You watch, helpless, as Rebecca nurses sister. Sarah Cloyce grows weaker by the day, her body racked with a fever that leaves her delirious. An infant child, born to a prisoner in another cell, dies of the sickness and the cold. Its small body is taken away with little ceremony. Death is a constant, mundane presence here. You fall asleep to the sound of hacking coughs and feverish moans, and you pray that you will not wake up to find the person next to you cold and still. The fear of the gallows is now joined by the more immediate fear of dying here, in the filth and the dark, from a common and earthly disease. You struggle to hold on to your own mind. You try to remember who you were before you entered this place. A farmer, a spouse, a parent, a neighbor. But that identity is fading, scraped away by the daily abrasion of this new reality. Here, you are only a prisoner, a witch. You spend hours staring at the sliver of sky in the window, trying to remember the feeling of the sun on your face, the smell of fresh-cut hay, the taste of clean water. These simple memories are your only anchor to your own humanity, and you cling to them with a desperate tenacity, even as the cold, the hunger, and the fear try to tear them away. The examination process, you now understand, is not a series of events. It is a constant, grinding state of being, designed to dismantle you, body, mind, and soul, until there is nothing left to do but confess. Weeks bleed into a month. The initial shock of your imprisonment has long since subsided, replaced by a dull, chronic ache of despair. Your body has weakened, thinned by the meager rations and the constant gnawing stress. The filth of the jail has worked its way into your very being. You are perpetually cold, perpetually dirty, and you have grown accustomed to the constant low-grade hunger. But the deepest erosion is not of the body, but of hope. Once a week, your family is permitted a brief supervised visit. They do not enter the cell, speak to you through the bars of the door, their faces strained with a grief that is almost too painful to look at. In these brief, whispered conversations, you receive news from the outside world, and none of it is good. The madness is not subsiding, it is growing. The accusations have multiplied, spreading like a plague through the county. More and more people are being arrested, their names cried out by the afflicted girls who are now treated as oracles, as holy prophets revealing the devil's hidden army. Respected landowners, church deacons, even the former minister of the village, George Burroughs, have been clapped in irons. The jails in Salem, Ipswich, and Boston are overflowing. Your family tells you that your property, your farm, is in jeopardy. The magistrates have begun seizing the assets of the accused to pay for their prison fees, the cost of the food you do not eat, the shackles that bind you. Your life's work is being dismantled, consumed by the very system that has imprisoned you. Your children are being shunned in the village, taunted as the offspring of a witch. Your family is being destroyed, not just by your absence, but by the stain of your accusation. And then, during one of these visits, comes the most devastating blow of all. Your spouse, their eyes filled with tears, their voice a broken whisper, speaks the words you have come to dread. Perhaps it would be better to confess, they say. We have heard that those who confess are spared. Just tell the magistrates what they wish to hear. It is a lie. We know it is a lie, but it is a lie that may save your life. We cannot bear to lose you. The words are spoken out of love, out of a desperate, heartbreaking pragmatism. But to you, they are a profound betrayal. The last bastion of your defense, the belief that your own family knew your true character, has crumbled. Even they, in their desperation, are now advising you to surrender your integrity, to admit to this monstrous falsehood. You are truly alone. The pressure from within the jail is just as intense. One afternoon, the cell door opens to admit a small group of officials. With them is Tituba. She is no longer a prisoner in the same sense as you are. Since her confession, she has become a key witness for the prosecution, an instrument of the court. She is now an agent of the hysteria, her own survival dependent on her usefulness to the magistrates. She is led through your crowded cell. She does not meet anyone's eyes. A magistrate asks her in a loud, clear voice, "Do you see any here who have served the devil alongside you?" Tituba, her voice a low mumble, begins to point. She points to a woman who is weeping in the corner. She points to a man who is shivering with fever. She claims to have seen their specters at a witch's sabbath in the forest, to have seen them sign their names in the devil's book. Then her gaze falls upon you. She hesitates for a moment, and then her finger extends, pointing directly at your chest. "Yes," she says. "That one. I have seen that one with him." It is a lie, a calm, quiet, and utterly soul-destroying lie. But in the eyes of the officials, it is a confession corroborating a confession, the strongest evidence imaginable.
Oh, your denials
Are the words of a witch. Her words are the testimony of a penitent. There is no question as to which will be believed. Even the iron chains that bind you become an instrument of the examination. The afflicted girls in the village begin a new performance, claiming that they can feel the spirits of the accused witches tormenting them through the rattling of their chains in the distant jail. When news of this reaches the magistrates, the jailer is ordered to place heavier and more numerous irons on the prisoners. In the belief that this will somehow restrain their specters, the weight on your ankles is doubled, the cold, heavy iron chafing your skin raw, making every small movement a new form of agony. The chains are no longer just a restraint. They are an active tool of torture, a physical manifestation of the invisible power you are accused of wielding. Your incarceration is now complete. You are physically imprisoned in a cold, dark, and filthy cell. You are socially imprisoned, your name destroyed and your family ostracized. You are spiritually imprisoned, pressured to abandon your faith and your integrity in exchange for a lie. And now you are legally imprisoned, your fate all but sealed by the false testimony of a fellow victim. The last sliver of hope vanishes when the news finally arrives. To deal with the impossibly crowded jails and the growing number of accusations, the governor of the colony, Sir William Phipps, has established a special court to hear the trials. The court of Oyer and Terminer, to hear and to determine. The long, agonizing wait is over. The trials are about to begin. But you feel no relief, only a cold, hollow certainty. Bro, there will be no justice in that court. It will be a mere formality, a stage for the presentation of the spectral evidence, the forced confessions, and the lies that have already condemned you. Your examination is over, your incarceration has broken you, and now all that is left is the final act. The news that the court of Oyer and Terminer has been formed spreads through the squalid, overcrowded cells like a fever. For some, it brings a flicker of desperate hope, a belief that a formal court, with proper judges and procedures, will surely see through the madness of the past few months. But for you, having witnessed the inverted logic of the examinations and the relentless pressure of the magistrates, the news brings only a cold, heavy dread. You know that this court is not designed to determine guilt or innocence. It has been created to formalize the condemnations that have already taken place in the minds of the community. The weeks of waiting for the court to convene are a new kind of psychological torture. The physical misery of the jail remains a constant: the cold, the filth, the hunger. But now it is overlaid with the intense mental agony of what is to come. It is in this period that the central, soul-crushing dilemma of your ordeal becomes terrifyingly clear. From the conversations of the jailers and the whispers of visiting family, you piece together the terrible bargain being offered. The magistrates, led by the zealous Deputy Governor William Stoughton, have established a clear, unwritten policy. Those who confess to witchcraft, who admit their allegiance to the devil and name others in his service, will be spared the gallows. Their lives will be saved. They will be seen as penitent sinners who have renounced the devil and returned to the fold of God, useful to the court as witnesses against others. However, those who maintain their innocence, who refuse to confess to a crime they did not commit, are seen as unrepentant, hardened servants of Satan. They are considered an active threat to the spiritual well-being of the colony, a cancer that must be cut out. For them, the penalty is death. It is a choice so monstrous, so diabolically clever, that it could have been designed by the devil himself. To live, you must tell a lie that will not only stain your soul for eternity, but will also condemn your friends and neighbors. To die, all you have to do is tell the truth. Your very life now depends on your willingness to bear false witness. The court is not asking for truth. It is demanding a performance, and the price of a poor performance is your life. In early June, the court begins its work. The first person to be tried is a woman named Bridget Bishop. You do not know her personally, but you know her by reputation, as everyone does. She is the owner of a tavern on the road to Beverly, a woman known for wearing a red bodice, which is considered scandalously flamboyant in the drab Puritan world. She has a sharp tongue and has been accused of witchcraft once before, years ago, though the charges were dropped. She is, in short, an easy target, the perfect person to be the first example. News of her trial trickles back to the prisoners in the jail. You hear how the afflicted girls went into spectacular fits the moment she entered the courtroom. You hear how witnesses from her past were brought forward to testify to every strange event that ever happened in her vicinity. Milk turning sour, bread failing to rise, spectral shapes appearing in their bedrooms at night. You hear how a group of men testified that they found poppets, small dolls made of rags with pins stuck in them, hidden in the walls of her old house. Bridget Bishop, like you, maintains her innocence with a fierce and angry defiance. I am as innocent as the child unborn, she declares to the court, but her denials are useless. The mountain of spectral evidence, neighborhood gossip, and manufactured proof is overwhelming. The jury, composed of local landowners, takes only a few hours to reach its verdict. Guilty. The sentence is death by hanging. The news of the verdict falls like a funeral shroud over the jail. The theoretical has become real. The magistrates are not bluffing. They have built a legal machine that turns suspicion into fact, and they are now using it to kill. On June 10th, you hear the slow, solemn tolling of the church bells. Through the high, barred window, you can see the people of Salem town gathering, moving in a great, dark river towards a place outside of town, Rocky Hill known as Gallows Hill. Bridget Bishop is being executed. The thought is almost too much to bear. A woman has just been hanged, not for murder, not for theft, but for the spectral crimes witnessed in the imaginations of a handful of hysterical girls. The execution changes everything. The atmosphere in the jail becomes thick with a new and desperate terror. The ministers, seeing their opportunity, return with renewed purpose. The Reverend Nicholas Noyes, a minister from Salem town, comes to your cell. His voice is not kind. It is the voice of a man utterly convinced of his own righteousness. Bridget Bishop chose the devil's pride over God's mercy, he tells you and the other prisoners, his voice ringing against the stone walls. She died unrepentant, and her soul is now in hell. But it is not too late for you. Confess, confess, and glorify God. Tell us who you have seen, what you have done. If your confession will save your life, and it may yet save your soul. His words lay the dilemma bare. The path to life is through a lie. The path of truth leads directly to the gallows. You retreat into the darkness of your own mind, the minister's words echoing. The choice is now yours. You are a devout Christian. Your entire life has been built upon a foundation of faith, of truth, of the certainty of God's judgment. To lie is a sin. To bear false witness against your neighbor, to send an innocent person to the gallows to save your own skin, is one of the most terrible sins imaginable. To stand before God on Judgment Day with that lie on your soul is a fate more terrifying than any earthly punishment. But then you think of your family. You picture your children's faces, your spouse's grief. Do you not have a duty to them, to live, to return to them one day? What good is your truth if it leaves your children orphaned and your farm in ruins? Can God truly condemn a lie told under such duress, a lie told to save a life? You watch the other prisoners, see the same agonizing conflict in their eyes. You are all trapped in the same spiritual crucible, forced to weigh the value of your earthly life against the price of your eternal soul. The witch hunt has ceased to be about witches. It is now a terrifying test of faith, and every possible answer feels like a form of damnation. In the wake of Bridget Bishop's execution, a new and frantic energy grips the court. 5 more accused women are tried in late June, and like Bishop, they are all swiftly condemned. The machine is efficient, its outcome predictable. For those of you waiting in the jail, the news of each guilty verdict is another nail in your own coffin. Hope is a currency that has become impossibly scarce. But then, a case comes before the court that sends a flicker of that hope through the despairing prison population. The trial of Rebecca Nurse. She is a figure of immense respect in the village, a 71-year-old grandmother known for her piety and gentle nature. Her accusation was one of the most shocking of all, a sign that the hysteria had broken free of its initial targets and was now consuming the very heart of the community. If anyone could prove their innocence, if anyone's good name could stand against the spectral testimony of the afflicted girls, it would be hers. The prisoners in the jail followed the news of her trial with a desperate, breathless attention. You hear how a petition, signed by dozens of the most respected members of the community, was presented to the court attesting to her unimpeachable character. You hear how she stood before the magistrates, not with the angry defiance of Bridget Bishop, but with a calm, quiet dignity that impressed many in the courtroom. The afflicted girls, of course, performed their now familiar routine, writhing and screaming that Goody Nurse was tormenting them from across the room. But for the first time, their performance seems to be weighed against the tangible, lifelong reputation of the accused. The jury retires to deliberate, and for a long, agonizing period, the fate of Rebecca Nursand, in many ways. The fate of reason itself hangs in the balance. The news, when it finally comes, is a jolt of pure, unbelievable joy. The jury foreman has read the verdict, not guilty. The report spreads through the jail like a wildfire. The first time in months, there are tears not of despair, but of relief. Men and women who had resigned themselves to death embrace each other in the gloom. It is a moment of profound, powerful hope. It seems that the truth does matter. A good name is a defense. The madness can be stopped. You feel a lightness in your chest that you thought you would never feel again. If Rebecca Nurse can be acquitted, then perhaps you can be too. Your hope is shattered less than an hour later. The new report that filters into the jail is one of cruel, almost unbelievable injustice. Upon hearing the not guilty verdict, the afflicted girls in the courtroom had redoubled their fits, their screams and convulsions more violent than ever. The crowd had erupted in an angry uproar, and the chief magistrate, William Stoughton, had risen to his feet and openly rebuked the jury. He pointed to a statement Rebecca Nurse had made, calling another accused woman one of us, and demanded the jury reconsider whether this was a confession of being a fellow witch. Under the immense pressure from the judge and the furious crowd, the jury was sent back to deliberate. This time, they did not take long. They returned with a new verdict: guilty. The moment of hope, the belief that the system might correct itself, is revealed to have been a cruel illusion. The machine is not broken. It had merely experienced a minor fault, which has now been brutally corrected. The message to the remaining prisoners is clear and unequivocal. Innocence is not a viable defense. With the path of truth now definitively barred, the pressure to choose the path of the lie becomes almost unbearable. You begin to see the results of this choice all around you. The magistrates have discovered that the most effective way to secure new accusations is through the children of the accused. They bring in the young sons and daughters of women like Martha Carrier, a defiant woman accused of being a queen of the witches. The children are questioned relentlessly. It is rumored they are tortured, their feet tied, and their necks crushed until they break. One by one they confess. Not only do they confess to being witches themselves, but they also implicate their own mother. They provide the court with lurid, detailed stories of her diabolical acts, stories that seal her fate. This is the price of a confession, not just the loss of your own soul, but the requirement that you become an instrument in the destruction of others, even your own family. The confessors are a strange and pitiable group within the prison. They are physically safe. They receive slightly better food and are not under the immediate threat of the gallows. But they are living ghosts, haunted by what they have done. You see them huddled together, their eyes filled with a profound, inconsolable guilt. They are forced to repeat their lies at every new examination, their false testimonies sending more and more of their former neighbors to join you in the condemned cells. They have traded a quick death at the end of a rope for a slow death of the spirit. You are now caught between two horrifying precedents. On one side is the fate of Rebecca Nurse. She held fast to the truth, had the support of her community, and was even acquitted by a jury, but the court would not be denied its victim. Her dignity is intact, but she is now awaiting her execution. On the other side are the confessors, those who have told the lies the court wanted to hear. They are alive, but they have purchased their lives at the cost of their conscience and the lives of others. Your own trial date is approaching. The dilemma is no longer a theological debate. It is a choice between two clear, terrible paths. Do you follow Rebecca Nurse to the gallows, holding on to your truth as your only possession? Or do you join the ranks of the confessors, sacrificing your soul and your neighbors to spare your own life for a little while longer? You lie awake in the suffocating darkness of the jail, and you are tormented not by specters, but by the terrible weight of this impossible choice. The date for your trial is set. The knowledge, when it comes, is not a shock, but a cold, heavy finality. There are now only weeks, perhaps only days, until you will stand before the court of Oyer and Terminer. One of your family members is permitted a final visit, a last, desperate attempt to reason with you. The face you see through the bars of the cell door is a mask of grief. Please, they beg, their voice cracking with emotion. We know you are innocent. God knows you are innocent. But these men are not of God. They will hang you. Think of us. Think of your children. What good is your truth in the grave? Lie. Tell them what they want to hear. We can live with the lie, but we cannot live without you. This final, desperate plea, born of love and terror, is the last turn of the screw. You look into their tear-filled eyes and you see the terrible choice made real. To maintain your innocence is to inflict the deepest possible wound on the people you love. To confess is to save them that grief, but to condemn your own soul and perhaps the lives of your neighbors. You go back to the darkness of your corner, and in the quiet of your own heart, you make your choice. You think of Rebecca Nurse, of her quiet dignity. Think of the monstrous lies you would have to tell, the innocent people you would have to name, weaving their faces into a diabolical fiction. You think of standing before God on Judgment Day, your soul stained not with the false crime of witchcraft, but with the real, terrible sin of bearing false witness, and you find your answer. There are fates worse than death. You cannot do it. You will not confess. A strange, calm resignation settles over you. The struggle is over. You've chosen the gallows. Your decision is soon put into stark context. On July 19th, a group of prisoners is taken from the jail. Among them is Rebecca Nurse and Sarah Good. You hear the heavy clang of the jailer's keys, the rattle of chains as the condemned are led out into the morning light. You hear the rumble of the cart that will carry them to Gallows Hill. The entire prison falls into a deep, somber silence, every inmate listening, imagining the final journey. Later that day, stories of the executions filter back into the prison. You learn that all 5 prisoners went to their deaths professing their innocence. You hear of the final, defiant words of Sarah Good, as the Reverend Nicholas Noyes was urging her to confess. She looked him in the eye and said, "I am no more a witch than you are a wizard, and if you take away my life, God will give you blood to drink." The words are a small, sharp shard of defiance in the face of an all-powerful, unreasoning authority. The prisoners repeat them in whispers, a grim and bitter comfort. They died, but they did not break. You have made your choice, and you have now seen the end of the path you have chosen. There is no surprise, no reprieve. Your fate will be their fate. The only question now is when your name will be called. As the summer bleeds into the early autumn, the trials continue. But a new and even more grotesque story unfolds, proving the absolute, inescapable brutality of the court. The story of Giles Corey. He is an 81-year-old farmer, known for his stubborn and sometimes cantankerous nature. When he is accused of witchcraft, he knows, as everyone now knows, that a trial is a mere formality leading to a guilty verdict. He also knows that a convicted witch or wizard has their property seized by the state, leaving their family destitute. Giles Corey, in a final act of defiance, decides to deny the court its process. When he is brought before the magistrates for his arraignment, he refuses to enter a plea. He stands mute. He will not say guilty, and he will not say not guilty. He denies the court's authority over him. There is an ancient and terrible English law for such a refusal. The punishment is not hanging. It is peine forte et durstrong, and hard punishment. It is a procedure designed to force a plea from the accused. You hear the accounts from horrified jailers and witnesses. Giles Corey was taken to a field near the jailhouse. He was stripped naked and made to lie on his back. A heavy wooden board, the size of a door, was placed upon his body. Then, under the supervision of the sheriff, large stones were brought one by one and placed upon the board. The goal was to slowly crush the man until he either entered a plea or his body gave out. The torture lasted for 2 days. The immense weight slowly crushed the air from Corey's lungs, broke his ribs, and pushed his eyes from their sockets. The sheriff would periodically lean down, demanding a plea. Do you confess or deny? But Giles Corey, in an act of almost superhuman defiance, refused to speak, except, it is said, to rasp out a single chilling request. More weight. He never entered a plea. After 2 days of this agony, he was crushed to death. And because he was never tried or convicted, he died technically innocent in the eyes of the law. His farm and his property were not forfeit to the state. They passed as he had intended to his sons in law. The story of Giles Corey's death is the final, horrifying chapter in the lesson of Salem. It teaches you that there is no escape. You can profess your innocence and be hanged, can confess to a lie and live in shame, or you can defy the court and be pressed to death under a pile of stones. The one thing you cannot do is survive with both your life and your integrity intact. The confession dilemma is over. You have made your choice, and you have seen the terrible price of every possible path. There is no longer any room for hope, or for strategy, or for doubt. All that remains is the quiet, grim, waiting for your own name to be called, and your own final walk to the gallows. After what feels like a lifetime spent in the cold, fetid darkness of the jail, the day you have been waiting for, with a mixture of dread and weary resignation, finally arrives. The heavy cell door groans open, and the jailer stands silhouetted against the light from the corridor. He reads your name from a piece of paper. It is not a question or a request. It is a summons. The court of Oyer and Terminer is ready for you. A strange calm settles over you as you are led out of the cell, your shackles clanking on the stone floor. The long, agonizing period of uncertainty is over. You have made your choice not to confess, and you have made a quiet, fragile peace with the consequences. Now, all that is left is to walk the path you have chosen to its inevitable end. You are escorted from the jail to the Salem Town Meeting House, which has been converted into a formal courthouse. The scene inside is more ordered, but no less intimidating than your first examination. The room is packed to the rafters with the citizens of the colony, their faces a sea of pale, grim curiosity. There is a palpable sense of occasion, a feeling of grim, religious gravity. This is not just a legal proceeding. It is a ritual of purification, and you are the sacrifice. At the front of the room, on a high bench, sit the judges, a panel of the colony's most powerful men, dressed in severe black robes and white bands. In the center is the Deputy Governor, William Stoughton, a man whose stern, unyielding expression tells you he is not here to listen, but to condemn. He is a man utterly convinced of the reality and immediate danger of the devil's conspiracy against New England, and he sees himself as God's chosen instrument to smite it. To one side sits the jury box, filled with 12 men landowners and merchants from the community. You look at their faces, searching for a sign of doubt, of compassion, of independent thought. You find none. Their expressions are closed, their eyes carefully avoiding yours. They have seen what happened to the jury that dared to acquit Rebecca Nurse. They know what is expected of them. And there, on a bench near the front, is the familiar assembly of the afflicted girls. They are no longer the frightened, confused children of the winter. They are seasoned performers, confident in their power, aware that every man in this room, from the lowest farmer to the deputy governor himself, hangs on their every word and every convulsion. The clerk of the court calls your name, and you are made to stand before the judges. The formal indictment is read aloud, a long, rambling document filled with legal jargon and terrifying accusations. It charges that you have on various dates wickedly, maliciously, and feloniously entered into a covenant with the devil, and used your demonic powers to torture, afflict, pine, consume, waste, and torment the bodies of your accusers. At the end of the reading, the judge looks down at you. "What say you to this indictment?" he asks, his voice booming in the silent room. "Do you plead guilty or not guilty?" You take a slow breath. This is the final fork in the road, the last chance to choose the lie that leads to life. But your resolve, forged in the misery of the jail, holds firm. "Not guilty, you say?" Your voice quiet but clear. With that, the trial begins. It is, as you suspected, not an investigation, but a carefully orchestrated presentation of the evidence that has already been gathered against you. There is no presumption of your innocence. The entire proceeding is designed to confirm your guilt. First, the afflicted girls are called upon. As soon as you are made to look at them, their performance begins. It is more dramatic, more practiced than it was at the initial examination. They scream that your specter is floating towards them, its hands outstretched to choke them. They fall from their benches, their bodies thrashing on the floor. They complain of being bitten and show fresh teeth marks on their arms. They pull pins from the folds of their own clothes, claiming your spirit has just driven them into their flesh. The judges and the jury watch this spectacle with rapt, horrified attention. This is spectral evidence, and in this court, it is treated as irrefutable fact. Next, the court calls one of the confessors, a woman with whom you shared the misery of the jail cell. She is brought to the stand, her face pale and her eyes downcast. She speaks in a low, coached monotone, reciting the story she has been told to tell. She testifies that she saw you at a great witch's sabbath in the forest, that she saw you put your name in the devil's book, a great black book with pages of skin and signatures written in blood. She describes how you, along with Bridget Bishop and the Reverend Burroughs, took part in a diabolical parody of the Puritan communion, eating red bread and drinking a foul, dark liquid. You have no lawyer to defend you. You must speak for yourself. You try to question her, your voice shaking with the injustice of it all. "When did you see me there?" you ask. "Who else was present?" Her answers are vague, inconsistent. But it does not matter. The judges do not challenge her story. Your questions are dismissed as the cunning attempts of a witch to confound a simple, penitent witness. Finally, the court calls your neighbors. One after another, they take the stand to testify against you. Every petty grievance, every long-forgotten argument from your past is resurrected and presented as evidence of your long-standing malice. A man testifies that after a dispute with you over a piece of land 10 years ago, his cow inexplicably went dry. A woman testifies that after you had a sharp exchange with her at the market, the batch of butter she was churning spoiled. Each story on its own is nothing. But woven together, they create a tapestry of malevolence, a lifetime of supposed witchcraft culminating in the torment of the afflicted girls. You try to defend yourself. You try to explain that the man's cow was old, that the woman's butter likely spoiled in the summer heat. You speak of your life of prayer, of your good works in the community. But your words are useless. They are the pleas of a person, a human being, in a court that is not dealing with humanity. It is dealing with a supernatural conspiracy. Your reasonable explanations are no match for their terrified, absolute certainty. The trial is not a debate. It is a sermon, and its conclusion was written long before it began. The trial, if it can be called such, lasts only a few hours. There are no surprise witnesses, no startling revelations of truth. It is a slow, methodical performance of a conclusion that was decided weeks ago. After the last neighbor has recounted their tale of spoiled milk or a spectral vision, the presentation of evidence is closed. You are given one last opportunity to speak, to confess your sins before the court. You stand, your body weary, but your voice steady, and you say once more, "I am innocent of this great sin. I call God as my witness." A murmur of disapproval ripples through the crowd. In their eyes, your steadfast denial is not a sign of integrity, but of a hardened heart, a soul utterly given over to the devil's pride. Chief Magistrate Stoughton now turns to address the jury. His charge to them is not a neutral summary of the evidence. It is a sermon, a call to arms in the holy war against the devil. He speaks of the clear and present danger to the colony, the insidious plot of Satan to overthrow God's kingdom in the New World. He reminds them of the suffering of the afflicted girls whose torments they have witnessed with their own eyes. He gives full legal weight to the spectral evidence, stating that the devil cannot assume the shape of an innocent person to afflict another. Therefore, if the girls saw your specter hurting them, you must be guilty. He speaks of the confessions of the other witches, which have confirmed the vast and terrible scope of the conspiracy. "Look to the evidence," he concludes, his gaze sweeping over the 12 men in the jury box. "Do your duty to God and to this colony. Purge the evil from our midst." His words leave no room for doubt. He has not instructed them to weigh the evidence, but to confirm it. He has commanded them to convict. The jury files out of the room. But you know, as everyone in the room knows, that their deliberation is a mere formality. They are not gone for long. When they return and take their seats, their faces are grim, their eyes fixed on the floor. The clerk asks the foreman to stand. In the case of this prisoner, the clerk asks, "What say you?" The foreman clears his throat and speaks the single word that seals your fate: guilty. The word does not land like a thunderclap, it lands with a quiet, dull thud in the silent room. There is no surprise in you, no shock, only a profound and hollow emptiness. It is as if you are watching a play, and this was always the final line. The judges nod, their expressions unchanged. The verdict is as they expected. Stoughton now addresses you directly, and it is time for the sentence. "You have been accused by credible witnesses and found guilty by a jury of your peers of the heinous crime of witchcraft," he intones. His voice cold and hard as iron. "You have covenanted with the devil, renounced your baptism, and used his dark power to the great torment of your fellow Christians. Now you are a blight upon this community, a servant of the enemy of all mankind. Therefore, this court sentences you to be taken from this place to the jail from whence you came, and from there to the place of execution, where you shall be hanged by the neck until you are dead. May the Lord have mercy on your soul." A date is set for the execution, a mere week away. The trial is over. You are now no longer the accused. You are the condemned. The constable leads you from the courthouse, but this time the crowd is different. Their earlier excited jeering has been replaced by a somber, fearful silence. They look upon you now as a dead person walking, a soul already forfeit, and they shrink away as you pass. The return to the jail is a return to a different kind of prison. You are placed in a cell with the other condemned prisoners, those who, like you, have chosen to maintain their innocence and now await the gallows. The atmosphere here is different from the chaotic despair of the main cells. Here there is a strange, quiet solemnity, the calm of those who have accepted their fate and have nothing left to fear. The last week of your life is a series of quiet, final acts. Your family is permitted one last visit. They come to you, their faces ravaged by grief. There are no more pleas for you to confess. That time is past. There are only tears and whispered farewells, and the heartbreaking touch of a loved one's hand through the bars of the cell. They promise to care for your children, to protect your name as best they can. It is a conversation of ghosts, of people already living in the aftermath of a death that has not yet occurred. The Reverend Noyes also pays a visit. He comes not to offer comfort, but to make one last zealous attempt to extract a confession. He speaks of the fires of hell that await an unrepentant sinner. Do not go to meet your Maker with this lie upon your lips, he pleads. You look at him and you feel not anger, but a profound pity for this man, so blinded by his own certainty. I go to meet my Maker with a clear conscience, you tell him. I pray he will forgive you for the shedding of innocent blood. He leaves, shaking his head at your stubborn pride. In your final days, you do as many of the others have done. With a piece of charcoal on a scrap of paper provided by a sympathetic jailer, you write a letter. It is a letter to your children, a final testament of your love and your innocence. You do not speak of the court or the judges. Speak of your faith in God, of the lessons of honesty and piety you tried to teach them. Tell them that you die not as a witch, but as a Christian, falsely accused, and that you will await them in the kingdom of heaven. It is a small, futile act, a message in a bottle cast into a sea of madness, but it is the only legacy you have left to give. On the eve of your execution, a profound stillness descends upon you. You have said your goodbyes. You've written your last words. You've made your peace with your God. You lie on the cold stone floor of the cell, listening to the quiet breathing of the other condemned prisoners around you. There is nothing left to do but wait for the dawn. You close your eyes, and for the first time in months, your mind is not filled with fear or with rage. It is quiet. You are ready. The morning of your execution dawns gray and cold, the weak sunlight struggling to pierce the autumn clouds. You are woken not by a guard, but by the slow, solemn tolling of the meeting-house bell. It is a sound you have heard 1,000 times before, calling you to prayer, to town meetings, to celebrations. Today, it tolls for you. The sheriff arrives, his face a mask of official duty. He unbolts the door to the condemned cell and reads your name, along with the names of the others who are to die today. There is no struggle, no resistance. The time for that is long past. You are let out in your chains, blinking in the open air for the first time in months. The light is blinding, the air so fresh and clean it feels almost painful to breathe after the stagnant filth of the jail. A large cart, its floor covered in straw, is waiting. You and the other condemned are ordered to climb aboard. As the cart begins its slow rumbling journey through the streets of Salem town, you see the crowds that have gathered. They are not the jeering, hateful mob from the day of your arrest. A somber, uneasy silence hangs over them. Their faces are a mixture of fear, pity, and a grim, dutiful resolve. Out there here to witness the purging of evil, but after so many hangings, a seed of doubt, a whisper of terrible error has begun to sprout in the heart of the community. The procession makes its way out of the town and towards the place of execution. Gallows Hill. It is a barren, rocky outcrop, windswept and desolate, overlooking the sea. A simple, sturdy gallows, single massive oak beams supported by 2 upright stands stark against the gray sky. Several nooses, their knots expertly tied, dangle in the breeze. You are ordered down from the cart. You stand with the others at the foot of the gallows, a small, doomed congregation. The minister, Nicholas Noyes, is there, making one last public attempt to secure a confession. Do not go before God with this sin on your soul, he exhorts. One by one, the condemned are asked if they have any final words. When your turn comes, you step forward. You look not at the judges or the minister, but out at the faces in the crowd, the people who were once your neighbors. Your voice, when you speak, is calm and clear. I die a good Christian, you say. I am innocent of the crime of witchcraft, for which I have been condemned in this court. I forgive those who have falsely accused me, and I pray that God will forgive this community for the innocent blood it is shedding this day. You then do something that sends a murmur through the crowd. You begin to recite the Lord's Prayer. Your voice is steady, and you speak every word perfectly, without hesitation, without a single error. A feat the superstitious crowd believes is impossible for a true servant of the devil. For a moment, the official certainty of the event is shaken by the power of your simple, defiant act of faith. But it is not enough to save you. The sheriff does not waver. The ritual must be completed. The hangman, a hooded figure, approaches you. He places a coarse black hood over your head, plunging you into darkness. Feel the rough, heavy rope being slipped around your neck, the knot drawn tight against your ear. You stand on the cart, which now serves as the platform, and you wait. You hear the final prayers of the others beside you, the quiet sobbing of someone in the crowd. You feel the wind on your clothes. In the darkness, you picture your family's faces one last time. The sheriff gives a sharp command. There is a crack of a whip, and the horse lurches forward, pulling the cart from under your feet. There is a moment of terrible pressure, a sense of falling, and then a profound and sudden silence. Your long ordeal is over. Our journey through the terror of the Salem Witch Trials is now at an end. We have felt the chill of a community consumed by fear, survived the filth and despair of the jail, and witnessed the terrible inverted logic of the court. It was a world where piety was a weapon, where a child's word could send an adult to the gallows, where the truth was a far more dangerous thing to possess than any imagined witchcraft. It's that world of whispered accusations, spectral evidence, and somber, tolling bells has now faded away, leaving only the quiet of the present moment. The accused long and brutal day is over, and now so is yours. There is nothing left to do but to rest, to let go of the day, and to drift into the deep and peaceful sleep that you deserve. Sleep well.